Sarah Williamson live for us there on the streets of Manhattan. So Sarah, thank you. Speaking of the city, the NYPD, we want to bring in now the New York City Deputy Mayor for Public Safety. That is Kaz Daughtry joining us here in studio. Kaz was able to do a walkthrough with the mayor, and you obviously have a timeline of events here that we're still trying to put together some of this information. Can you walk us through what you know this hour?
Yep. Thank you very much for having me on the show. And on behalf of the 8.5 million New Yorkers, our condolences to the officer. We've been with his family last night. 6:28 p.m., that's when the first 911 call came in. Multiple 911 calls came into our 911 call center of shots fired. During that process, other 911 calls came in saying multiple people shot. More 911 calls came in saying active shooter into in the lobby of 345 Park Avenue. So what you see here is you see the individual walking from his car that he left parked in front of 345 Park Avenue, walking in with the rifle. As he walks in, there's a police officer doing paid detail. Now, people were saying that he's off duty. However, when this guy came in, this police officer immediately started to act. He automatically is on the clock. He's back being a police officer now because here's an assailant walking in with a rifle. That's not something you see every day in New York City. And this individual came in, he shot our officer multiple times. He also shot another victim, which is the NFL player, that the NFL employee, which is next to the officer. And then he goes on and shoots another victim and the security guard who was trying to do he was following his protocols, which I'm not going to go into when it comes to active shooter into the building. The individual then waits by the elevator bank and he presses for the elevator. A female walks out of the elevator, and I watched this whole thing when I'm telling you. Myself, the mayor, the police commissioner on security cameras for the building. The female walks out of the elevator. By the grace of God, he didn't touch her. We don't know why. When she then turns the corner, we didn't see that. She sees all the blood and just a chaotic scene. She immediately runs out the building. He then goes upstairs to the 33rd floor where he takes out another victim, shoots her multiple times, causing her demise. Now, it should be known that you know there are individuals saying that the routing company should have done more to protect their employees. That is completely not true. They had protocols in place, safe rooms inside of that on their floors, which some of the employees did go into those rooms and hide and wait for assistance to the NYPD to come near and clear every floor in that building to make sure that there was no other individuals inside that building. As you know, the suspect did take his own life, and I did watch that on camera as well.
You know, we saw actually some of the employees, I believe it was Blackstone, where they created the barricades themselves, right? Piling up the couches or anything that they could grab in the office. There's a photo there. You know, you look at this moment. What are your takeaways from that? And
that is just that's not something that we want to see anywhere in America, let alone in an office setting. But we did, you know, our 911 operators was inundated with phone calls with people saying that they are taking refuge and they're fortifying their office space, in which they had followed their own protocols for regards to active shooting. And we told them to remain in place. And we also was communicating with them. We put out messages on social media as well as Citizens app, which the city has a partnership with, that the suspect has been neutralized. And we don't believe at that time there was any other individuals that we were looking for, but as for safety precautions, we wanted the NYPD emergency service unit to go in there and clear that whole building before people started to come running out the building.
Can you confirm, you confirmed the gunman's suicide. Can you confirm that a suicide note was found on him talking about chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE? Have you seen that? Have you heard that report? Is that confirmed?
Yes, there was a note that was found on the suspect, and they did have some of that language that you said on there. I'm not going to go into the exact details, but yes, there was a note that was found. This is still part of the investigation.
Let me dive into the NYPD officer that lost his life in the line of duty, which you pointed out very well, that he automatically was back on duty when this happened, when that lone gunman walked in. That is Didarul Islam, 36 years old, leaving behind a wife, 2 kids. You told me she was 8 months pregnant, the wife. I just want to briefly, if you could talk about the family and in that moment. I know you were there with the dignified transfer as well.
Yes, we got to the hospital, you know, I'll take you back, but when the mayor, the police commissioner, myself was on the scene, and when we got word that the suspect has been neutralized and that they were going to do their floor-by-floor canvass to make sure that all the employees were out of out of their hiding spots and basically escorting them out the building. We went to the hospital after that. And when we arrived at the hospital, the mayor, myself, and the police commissioner, we met with the family. And as we walk into the room, the father was screaming out, "He's my only son." And this is not supposed to happen, but he was speaking in his native language, and there was a translator as he was the translator was telling us, and the pain on his face, he was so hurt that he started having chest compressions, and he was immediately removed to the emergency room where they had gave him an EKG, and it was because he was just saying that his heart was hurting, his chest was hurting, so they immediately took him to the ER room. His wife could not make it to the hospital because she's 8 months pregnant. And she immediately was having complications, so we had to send EMS personnel to her house also. And that is something which is, doing this job is the hardest thing to do, because after watching that video and watching that father, and I got home at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, and it took me about an hour to go to bed because my brain was just overwhelmed and just thinking about the father, thinking about the victims, just thinking about this whole incident. But this is where, the mayor, the leader of our city, he's our commander-in-chief, and this is something that he is great at. He's a great leader. He brings us together, and he will get us out of this. He will bring us all together. He brings New York together, and that's the great thing about Mayor Adams.
Yeah, we saw the press conference last night, just after 10 p.m. So, of course, this would, I'm sure, weigh heavy on you well into the early hours of the morning. Just really quickly, if you could comment on the level 3 mobilization. I understand that was called, and that means a lot of forces are working together in that moment.
When incidents like this happen, the incident commander, who was the chief at the time, the chief on the scene, he immediately requested more resources. Number one, there's so many people inside of the building. We don't know if there's going to be another assailant that's close by, or if there's another person inside the building. And we just want to make sure we get as much resources there. The commissioner wants to make sure she gets as much resources there. And we better to have more than less. And then we'll start sending people back if we don't need them. But you got to remember, there's hundreds of people inside of the building. Traffic, we just don't really know what we have, so it's better to have more resources. And level 3 mobilization is basically 1 sergeant, 8 police officers from every precinct in New York City.
And really quickly, the NFL, according to Mayor Eric Adams, the NFL was targeted by the gunman. Is that still?
We believe so. We believe so. That is, we believe that he was trying to get to the NFL.